The ticking time bomb in Milwaukee didn't just go off, it decimated everything, and we are staring at the wreckage. After weeks of boiling frustration, toxic locker room chemistry, and publicly shredding his teammates for selfishness, the two-time MVP isn't just unhappy, he is looking for the exit door. The rumors are nuclear. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, potentially headed to New York to join Jalen Brunson, turning the biggest what-if in the NBA into a terrifying reality in a matter of hours. This isn't just a slump, it is a total system failure. The 2025 to 2026 season marks the death knell for this era of the Milwaukee Bucks. Look at the carnage. The team is drowning at 18-25, a record that doesn't just put them in the bottom half, it buries them in irrelevance. We are witnessing the catastrophic collapse of a franchise that was supposed to be a dynasty built around a generational superstar. Since New Year's Day, the Bucks are a pathetic 4-5, completely unable to find a pulse even as the pressure of the trade deadline crushes down on them. This isn't dignified losing, it is embarrassing. We are talking blowout defeats, zero effort, and a home court advantage that is completely evaporated into thin air. The identity that made Milwaukee a nightmare to play against the bone-crushing defense, the hustle, the heart of a champion has fractured beyond repair. What is left standing? A hollow shell of a team hovering around 400 miles away from where a contender should be. And now, the terrifying variable that hangs over the entire city. Giannis Antetokounmpo's health. The latest blow? A right calf strain from a non-contact play, the kind of injury that makes you hold your breath, and the Bucks are giving us absolutely zero timeline for his return. Giannis threw out a guess of 4 to 6 weeks, but Coach Doc Rivers and the medical staff are terrified to put a date on the calendar. They are refusing to commit, and frankly, they should be scared. Remember December? He missed 8 games between the 5th and the 26th with the exact same issue. This is the same nightmare that sidelined him during the 2024 playoffs. The ghosts of injuries past are haunting this franchise. These aren't just bumps and bruises. These recurring soft tissue failures are screaming alarm bells for a beast whose entire game is built on explosive power and violent drives to the rim. Take Giannis off the floor, and the numbers are horrific. The offensive rating crashes to a pitiful 106.0. That is 0.0 levels of hope, ranking among the absolute worst in the association. The supporting cast isn't just struggling, they look completely incompetent. The record screams the truth. Without his two-way dominance to cover their mistakes, this roster is exposed as a fraudulent contender. But the rot goes deeper than the scoreboard. The chemistry in that locker room is radioactive. After a gut-wrenching loss that dropped them to 18-25, Giannis didn't hold back. He lit the fuse, saying, "Our chemistry is not there." He called them out, guys are being selfish. He accused his own teammates of chasing stats instead of chasing wins. And when you say that after a blowout, it is a declaration of war. The reporter asked the million-dollar question. How do you fix this broken mess? Getting you more shots? Getting you more touches? Giannis snapped back. Look, I am not that guy. I am not the guy who is going to scream in your face and cuss out a teammate and demand the ball like a tyrant. I have never done that in my career, but I feel like I have played with guys who understood the gravity I pull, the chaos I cause for the defense. They understood how I create for them, how I create for myself, and how I sacrifice to make this team a winner. But maybe, for some reason, I don't get it. Maybe because we are young, maybe because we are playing like trash, or maybe, and this is the dagger, maybe because guys think it is their turn to shine. The combination of humiliating performances, a breaking body, and open mutiny in the press has created the perfect storm for a blockbuster trade. The date is etched in stone, February 5th, 2026. The trade deadline is the judgment day. Giannis denies asking out, swearing loyalty, but the insiders are painting a different picture, one where the Greek god is ready to find a new Olympus. The Bucks are panicked. They are listening to aggressive offers, looking for all-stars, prospects, draft picks, anything to save the ship or blow it up. A franchise that once stood for stability and championships is now staring into the abyss of an existential crisis. The fall from grace has been violent and swift, turning a mid-season slump into a referendum on the entire organization's future. 3 straight first-round exits were the warning signs, and every single loss chipped away at the foundation until it crumbled. Every move they made to keep the championship window open didn't just fail, it slammed the window shut on their fingers. December and January exposed them as frauds, racking up losses against the elite and getting bullied by the bottom dwellers alike. General Manager John Horst, once the genius architect of a title, is now under fire for making panic moves instead of power moves. The strategy of the last few years? A disaster. The trades, the signings, the desperate roster construction, it has left the cupboard bare, with zero assets and zero flexibility to fix this mess. This is the culmination of years of negligence coming home to roost. The pathetic play, the terrifying injury history, the public betrayal of teammates, and the front office failures have all collided at once. What started as a whisper is now a roar. The trade deadline is approaching, and the impossible is becoming probable. The frustration boiling over from Giannis Antetokounmpo isn't just about losing. It is an indictment of the entire Milwaukee Bucks organization. We are witnessing a systematic front office meltdown, a series of catastrophic choices that haven't just handcuffed this team, they have completely severed its ability to fight for a title. And don't let the public silence fool you. While Giannis might be playing the good soldier in front of the microphones, preaching patience and chemistry, the whispers behind the scenes are screaming a different story. Absolute fury over a roster built on broken promises. The single most explosive moment in this collapse? That controversial bombshell decision in July 2025 to waive and stretch the contract of superstar Damian Lillard. They torched a Legends contract just to clear cap space, handing Miles Turner a massive 4-year, $107 million bag that left analysts stunned. This comes after the franchise bet the entire farm in 2023 to bring Lillard over from Portland, a blockbuster trade that was supposed to create an unstoppable duo with Giannis that would rule the league for a decade. Instead, reports from that chaotic summer described the Lillard waiver as a panic move, a desperate, full-court heave at the buzzer by a management team terrified of their own shadow. It was a frantic attempt to salvage the Giannis era after the Dame experiment crashed and burned, failing to produce even a sniff of a deep playoff run. One rival N, Bachelor of Arts executive, didn't mince words, calling it a total surrender, a public admission that the Lillard trade was one of the biggest disasters in modern basketball history. Sources confirm Giannis was given a heads up about the Turner signing before the ink was dry, a courtesy call to the franchise cornerstone. But let's be clear, insiders say the Greek Freak was livid about cutting Lillard loose, viewing the waiving of a superstar teammate as proof that this organization has no stability and no clue what it's doing. They gutted their offensive firepower, sacrificing one of the greatest shooters ever for a defensive big man, leaving the roster looking dangerously thin and unbalanced. And the result? The team is still drowning in mediocrity, with the Miles Turner era failing to drag Milwaukee anywhere near the elite status they promised the fans. Remember the cost? The original trade for Lillard required sacrificing the heart and soul of the team, including Jrue Holiday, the very man who locked down the 2021 championship. When Holiday walked out that door, he took the team's identity with him, a two-way monster who thrived in the playoff pressure cooker. In exchange, they got an aging point guard whose defensive legs were gone, turning into a liability every time an opposing guard decided to attack in the postseason. The entire Lillard experiment, from the blockbuster arrival to the humiliating waiver, lasted less than 2 full seasons, a blink of an eye, in N, Bachelor of Arts time. And in that short window, the Bucks were embarrassed, suffering 3 consecutive first-round exits that shattered their reputation as contenders. The dream partnership with Giannis was a mirage. The seamless integration never happened. The chemistry was toxic, and the defensive ratings went into a freefall. Offensive schemes looked confused and clunky, unable to balance Dame's need to dominate the ball with Giannis's unstoppable force in the paint. By July 2025, the front office was staring down the barrel of a gun. Double down on an aging Lillard for years to come, or blow it up and pivot to a new star. They panicked and chose the pivot, chasing the theoretical rim protection and versatility of Miles Turner like it was a magic cure-all. The plan was simple on paper: pair a defensive anchor with Giannis to fix the team's most glaring weakness and lock down the paint. But in reality, the execution has been a nightmare that only poured gasoline on the fire. Look at the assets, or lack of them. The Bucks cupboard isn't just bare, it's a wasteland, completely devoid of young talent or trade chips after years of reckless spending. Milwaukee has no control over its own destiny, holding almost 0 unprotected first-round picks, stuck with swaps and the lesser of their own and New Orleans pick in 2026. They are paralyzed, unable to hunt for major upgrades or inject fresh blood into the lineup without severely overpaying or ripping the heart out of the remaining core. And if the lack of picks wasn't bad enough, The financial handcuffs are tightening around the organization's throat. The second apron restrictions are strangling them, eliminating flexibility in free agency and making roster moves nearly impossible. Now, the doomsday clock is ticking. Giannis becomes eligible for a supermax extension in October 2026, adding massive pressure to every single day. The franchise is trapped in a closing window, forced to decide right now whether to attempt a miracle rebuild around their star or face the terrifying reality of alternative paths. Because let's be honest, beyond Giannis and Turner, this roster is a ghost town with zero difference makers. The role players brought in to stop the bleeding have been busts, and the bench unit is providing absolutely nothing when it matters most. The depth chart is terrifying, a cliff dive in talent from the starters to the reserves, and the numbers back it up. Without Giannis, the offensive rating crashes to 106.0. That number puts them among the absolute worst teams in the league, exposing a fatal flaw in how this team was built. It is an inability to play competitive basketball the second their franchise savior sits down on the bench. Real championship contenders have layers, multiple creators, and dogs who can hold the line when a star goes down. Milwaukee has none of that. This roster is glass, brittle, fragile, and completely lacking the resilience needed to survive an 82-game grind. They swung for the fences with Lillard, Turner, and Holiday, burning through draft capital and depth, but they forgot to build a foundation that could actually sustain a title run. Every blockbuster trade was a mortgage on the future. A win-now move that has ultimately left them with nothing but losses and regret. These failures have created a toxic, splintering environment inside the facility, with sources describing the tension as thick enough to cut with a knife. Frustration for Giannis is reportedly at an all-time high, fueled by chronic losing, playoff embarrassment, and the realization that Milwaukee is miles behind the true elites. There are intense, heated conversations happening behind closed doors regarding his long-term future, injecting a palpable sense of dread and anxiety into both the locker room and the front office suites. Even ESPN Shams Charania is sounding the alarm, noting that while Giannis started the season willing to try, his patience is evaporating as the losses pile up and the reality sets in. The rumors aren't just whispers anymore. They are screaming, fueling speculation that the front office hasn't just failed, but has completely abandoned the mission, leaving their superstar questioning if there is even a road back to glory. That flash of hope when they signed Turner? Gone. Evaporated. The optimism shattered the second the ball tipped, and the team's record started free-falling into the abyss. Now in the heat of the 2025 to 2026 campaign, the nightmare is real. An abysmal 18-26 record, and a squad that looks absolutely lost without Giannis, who is sidelined with a calf injury that could change everything. All eyes are locked on the front office, and the long-term vision under John Horst is facing a firing squad of criticism from fans and analysts alike. Sure, they could make minor tweaks before the February 5th deadline, but let's be real, without premium assets, they are bringing a knife to a gunfight. The consensus is brutal. This isn't a fix-it job anymore. It requires either a scorched earth overhaul this summer or a heartbreaking divorce to finally hit the reset button. The franchise is staring down the barrel of an impossible choice. Try to build a castle on quicksand around Giannis with zero resources, or trade a top 5 generational talent while his value is still sky high. That paralyzed tension between fighting for a lost cause and blowing it all up is exactly what defines the suffocating uncertainty in Milwaukee right now. Waiving Lillard? A disaster. The Turner gamble? A bust. No draft picks and a bench full of ghosts? It is a masterclass in how to destroy a championship roster. These weren't just bad luck. These were decisions made with championship dreams that backfired spectacularly, acting like gasoline on a fire that accelerated the team's demise. It exposes a front office that is purely reactive, panic moving from one crisis to the next, pivoting blindly from star to star without protecting their future, leaving the Bucks hanging off a cliff with no safety rope. We all know the story of Giannis's loyalty. It is legendary. He signed that Supermax in 2020, looking the city in the eye and promising he was here for the long haul. And he delivered. He brought home the gold in 2021, carving his name into the bedrock of Wisconsin history forever. But let's be honest, loyalty has a breaking point, especially when the suits upstairs keep making moves that sabotage your chance to win. The toxic mix of bad management and brutal losses has created a pressure cooker where even the Greek Freak's ironclad commitment might snap. The front office has failed to show him a map to the promised land, and that incompetence has turned idle gossip into a terrifying reality. The end of an era is a legitimate possibility as the trade deadline ticks closer. The marketplace is exploding. The trade war for Giannis Antetokounmpo has hit a fever pitch, intensifying dramatically as we hurtle toward February 5th, 2026. With Milwaukee drowning at 18-27 and Giannis signaling he might be ready to jump ship, sharks are circling in the water, and multiple franchises are preparing their best offers. This isn't just a trade, it is a frantic pursuit to acquire a generational force of nature, a player who changes history, regardless of the miles on his odometer or the scary medical reports. He is 31 years old, dealing with nagging soft tissue issues, and nursing a right calf strain that will cost him 4 to 6 weeks. He is not the young athletic freak he once was. But make no mistake, when he is on the floor, he is still a monster, a dominant force, wrecking defenses, crashing the glass, and anchoring an elite defense like no one else. Teams are salivating over his championship DNA, that proven pedigree with 2 MVP trophies and the rare ability to single-handedly drag a mediocre team into contention. Everyone knows the health risks, but the talent is too intoxicating to ignore. His game is built on explosive power, and those recurring calf issues are a massive red flag, but insiders swear he is still elite, a sleeping giant waiting to wake up. The scouting report is clear. He is still sitting at the top of the mountain, with plenty of gas left in the tank for MVP caliber dominance, efficient scoring, and two-way destruction. The gamble? General managers believe that with a better crew around him and smart load management, they can keep the machine running. The price tag will be astronomical, but desperate franchises are willing to mortgage their entire future for a shot at a ring right now, betting on his greatness over unproven kids. The Bucks want a king's ransom, young studs, a mountain of draft picks, and salary relief to kickstart a total rebuild, prioritizing blue-chip prospects. And who is leading the pack? The Miami Heat are emerging as the prime destination, with whispers growing louder that they are supremely confident they can pull off the heist of the century before the deadline. Miami's war chest is loaded. Tyler Herro brings that young all-star firepower, alongside Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kala Ware, and a treasure trove of future first-round picks in 2030 and 2032, plus pick swaps to sweeten the pot. Their books are clean enough to swallow Giannis's massive contract without gutting the roster, and the vision is terrifying for the rest of the league, pairing Giannis with Bam Adebayo to form an unstoppable iron wall. Pat Riley lives for this. His history of landing big fish is unmatched, and Miami's gritty, military-grade culture is a perfect spiritual match for Giannis's work ethic. The Heat's defensive system is built to protect stars, potentially extending his prime by taking the heavy lifting off his shoulders on random possessions, saving his energy for the moments that decide championships. But Miami offers more than just players. This is an organization that defies gravity, consistently winning without top picks, turning overlooked guys into killers through superior development. That famous Heat culture, the discipline, the conditioning, the mental steel could be the fountain of youth. Giannis needs to navigate his 30s and manage those scary injury risks. Then you have the New York Knicks, the sleeping giant desperate for a savior, ready to get aggressive and bring Giannis to the mecca of basketball. But here is the snag. The Knicks want him bad, but their asset cupboard is looking thin compared to the competition. The New York Knicks are holding a single protected 2026 first-round pick like a poker chip. But let's be real, that is nowhere near enough to sit at the high-stakes table. To land a whale like this, you are looking at a painful, gut-wrenching sacrifice. We are talking about shipping out proven veterans pillars like Karl Anthony Towns, OG, Anunoby, or Mikal Bridges just to anchor a package that gets Milwaukee to even pick up the phone. But imagine the payoff. Pairing the Greek Freak with Jalen Brunson creates a level of offensive synergy that is frankly terrifying for the rest of the league. It is the ultimate big market power move, a collision of superstars that would turn Madison Square Garden into the epicenter of the basketball universe. However, the dream hits a brick wall when you look at the financials. The Knicks are entangled in a web of second apron restrictions in a draft cupboard that is running dangerously low on assets. They are hamstrung by prior obligations and the unforgiving Stepien rule, leaving them with limited ammunition. Matching Milwaukee's astronomical asking price without surrendering multiple key rotation players, that is the nightmare scenario that keeps the front office awake at night. Sure, Towns gives you that elite spacing and rebounding. He is a unicorn in his own right, but if you trade him, do you create a fatal flaw? You lose him, and suddenly your front court depth looks razor thin, exposing the team to disaster. Then there is Bridges and Anunoby. These guys aren't just role players, they represent the pinnacle of high-level two-way wings. In any trade scenario, losing them is a massive blow to the team's DNA. Here is the controversy. Packaging multiple starters for Giannis risks gutting the roster so severely that it undermines the very contention they are chasing. Are you building a champion or just a top-heavy house of cards? The Knicks have to walk a razor's edge, balancing this blockbuster acquisition with the desperate need to maintain enough complementary talent to survive the grueling attrition of the playoffs. Yet, despite the obstacles and the doomsday scenarios, the allure of New York persists like a beacon. The Knicks are still the team everyone is watching. You cannot fake the pull of the world's biggest market, nor the magnetism of Brunson's proven leadership. Under the iron-fisted stability of Tom Thibodeau, this franchise has transformed into a premier destination. And here is the twist. Giannis's reported preference for the Knicks adds a massive layer of leverage to the negotiations. It changes the entire power dynamic. It could force Milwaukee's hand, pushing them into a corner where they have to accept a slightly lower package just to honor the superstar's exit wishes. It is a brutal game of poker. Meanwhile, out west, the Golden State Warriors are loading up their own artillery. They can offer pick-heavy packages, throwing in multiple first-rounders and swaps alongside high-ceiling young guns like Jonathan Kuminga. But the Warriors are fighting their own war against apron constraints and a deep-seated reluctance to break up the core that brought them 4 rings. Kuminga represents sky-high upside, but does he have the proven production Milwaukee demands? In a trade for a player of Giannis's caliber, potential might not be enough to seal the deal. Golden State's interest screams desperation, a frantic win-now urgency fueled by the reality that Stephen Curry isn't getting any younger. Father Time is undefeated, and they know it. Adding Giannis creates a front-court pairing straight out of a video game. You leverage Curry's legendary gravity to rip open driving lanes for the most dominant slasher in the league, while Giannis's rim protection patches their defensive holes. The fit carries massive risks. Can they handle the spacing issues? The ball dominance? It is a gamble, but the sheer talent level demands they explore it. Then you have the dark horses. The San Antonio Spurs are lurking, dreaming of a generational front-court pairing with Giannis and the alien Victor Wembanyama. Or the Houston Rockets, sitting on a goldmine of youth like Amen Thompson and the Detroit Pistons, desperate to turn their picks and youth into relevance. But let's be honest, these teams are long shots. They rank lower on the totem pole for a reason. Whether it is asset limitations, timeline mismatches, or simply Giannis's hunger for immediate contention, these destinations feel like a pipe dream. The Miami Heat, however, emerge as the true sharks in the water. Reports labeled them the front runner, the team most likely to tempt the Bucks and pull off the heist of the century. Their combination of cap flexibility, young prospects, and a treasure chest of future picks makes them a formidable threat. The Heat culture appeal aligns perfectly with Milwaukee's demands, offering a path that doesn't require a full rebuild sacrifice. It is a terrifying thought for the rest of the East. But let's bring it back to the main event, the Knicks fit. If Giannis Antetokounmpo were to join the New York Knicks, pairing him with Jalen Brunson represents the single most discussed blockbuster scenario in modern basketball. With the Knicks sitting at 28-18, holding third place in the Eastern Conference and boasting a shiny new Bachelor of Arts Cup, this team is already dangerous. They have forged a strong offensive identity and prove they can win on the big stage. They are legitimate contenders right now, no questions asked. However, the cracks are showing. Their defensive rating slips, and the occasional inconsistency raises doubts. A superstar like Giannis, he is the force multiplier that pushes them to elite status. The Greek Freak is averaging 28 points, 10 rebounds, and over 5 assists per game. That is not just production, that is dominance. He is shooting an absurd 64.5% when healthy, bringing MVP level intensity and two-way terror every single night. His game thrives in the pick and roll, where his finishing ability and gravitational pull would supercharge Brunson's elite scoring and playmaking. Brunson excels at drawing defenders into deep waters, creating advantages while dropping 28 points per game. This would tear open driving lanes for Giannis and set up deadly kickouts for shooters like Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby. This inside-out dynamic transforms the Knicks' offense into an unstoppable force. They are currently ranking third league-wide with a 119.9 offensive rating, which is already elite territory. But the addition of Giannis? That could push this metric into the stratosphere, locking them into the top 1 or 2 spots in the entire association. Brunson's ability to operate off the ball as a lethal catch-and-shoot threat perfectly complements Giannis's drive and kick game, giving the defense 0 places to hide. The pick-and-roll chemistry between Brunson and Giannis would be devastating. It is a pick-your-poison scenario that no coach wants to scheme against. Brunson's mastery of pace keeps defenders off balance, frozen in place, while Giannis's rim-running explosiveness punishes any lapse with ferocious power. When defenses panic and commit to stopping Giannis's rolls, Brunson's mid-range mastery and floater game are wide open for the kill. And if they stay home on Brunson, Giannis's finishing ability at the rim makes him nearly unstoppable in space. It is a checkmate every time down the floor. Beyond the primary Brunson-Giannis actions, the surrounding cast would benefit immensely. The gravity of these two stars lifts everyone else up. Anunoby and Bridges, both elite snipers, would see the most wide-open looks of their careers as defenses collapse in terror on the Giannis-Brunson combination. Josh Hart's relentless energy and offensive rebounding would feast on the chaos, creating crucial second-chance opportunities that break opponents' backs. And Mitchell Robinson's rim running provides that final layer of vertical spacing, catching lobs and cleaning glass when Giannis operates from the perimeter. But here is where the nightmare truly begins for the opposition. The transition game becomes a runaway freight train. Imagine Giannis ripping down a defensive rebound and instantly pushing the tempo. He fits into the Knicks' existing speed like a turbocharged engine. You combine Brunson's lightning-fast decision-making with the Greek Freak's ability to go coast-to-coast in 3 dribbles, and you are looking at easy buckets before the defense even wakes up. It is a pick-your-poison scenario, devastating half-court precision mixed with transition chaos that will absolutely break the spirit of any team standing in their way. On the defensive end, we aren't just talking about an improvement, we are talking about an immediate earth-shattering revolution. Giannis is a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate, bringing elite rim protection and the kind of switching versatility that keeps offensive coordinators up at night. Right now, New York is bleeding points, sitting at a mediocre 17th in the league with a defensive rating of 115.4, a number that crumbles against elite competition. But drop Giannis into that paint, and suddenly you have an anchor who strikes fear into anyone foolish enough to drive the lane. His alien-like length and timing make him one of the premier shot blockers on the planet, swiping balls out of the air without committing those costly early fouls. This is the game changer. His ability to erase his teammates' mistakes gives a massive green light to perimeter dogs like Anunoby and Bridges to go for the jugular, pressuring ball handlers with the supreme confidence that they have a monster waiting behind them. And the switching? It would be absolutely transformative, completely altering the geometry of the court. We are talking about a guy who guards 1 through 5, shutting down centers, and then stepping out to smother guards on the perimeter, unlocking a fluid, switch-everything scheme. The pick-and-roll coverage goes from a liability to a weapon, with Giannis capable of dropping back to protect the house or blitzing up high to trap the ball handler in a chaotic web of limbs. Pair that length with Anunoby and Bridges, 2 of the scariest lockdown defenders in the game, and you are staring at arguably the most formidable defensive frontcourt in NBA history. Anunoby has the brute strength to bully wings, while Bridges uses that freakish anticipation to snap passing lanes like dry twigs. When you put these 3 gladiators together on the floor, you are likely looking at a unit that will catapult this team into the top 5, maybe even number 1 in defensive efficiency, finally fixing the single biggest flaw in this roster's DNA. And don't forget Mitchell Robinson lurking in the shadows, providing elite rim protection depth that gives the coach endless tactical options. When Giannis needs a breather, Robinson steps in to keep the paint on lockdown, so there is 0 relief for the offense. But imagine the terror of the Twin Tower lineup. Playing them together could physically overwhelm opponents, crushing them on the glass and shutting down the league's best big men. Defensive rebounding would skyrocket, completely eliminating second chance points and fueling that lethal transition attack we talked about. The analysts are screaming A+ on these hypothetical trades, calling the Knicks the undisputed winners in this high-stakes poker game. Viral proposals have them positioned not just as contenders, but as the terrifying new kings of the Eastern Conference and heavy favorites for the ring. Picture this blockbuster scenario. New York lands Giannis and Jerami Grant, but the price is blood sending away Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, and a war chest of draft picks. It is a massive injection of superstar talent, but let's be real, it comes at the cost of gutting the team's depth. Towns brings that elite spacing and rebounding, making him a premium trade chip, but his defensive lapses have been the Achilles heel that has arguably cost the Knicks in crucial playoff battles. Losing Bridges is a dagger to the heart of the perimeter defense, but the gamble is that Giannis's interior dominance is enough to cover the wound. And those draft assets, they're the team's future flexibility, burned at the altar of winning a championship right here, right now. Make no mistake, the cost is steep, painful, and absolutely unavoidable if you want a player of this caliber. New York is handcuffed by the Stepien rule and previous debts, making it a mathematical nightmare to match Giannis's $54 million salary without tearing the roster apart. We are talking about dancing on the edge of the second apron, where the financial penalties are brutal and the complexity of the deal reaches a breaking point. Saying goodbye to Towns, Bridges, and Anunoby could leave the rotation razor thin, exposing them to disaster in the grueling 82-game regular season. The bench would be decimated, forced to rely on unproven rookies and veterans chasing minimum contracts just to fill out the minutes. You have to expect some ugly nights early on as the remaining survivors scramble to adjust to their new reality. There is a massive learning curve here. Integrating a force like Giannis while trying to maintain defensive chemistry without your key guys is a dangerous tightrope walk. And then there are the whispers, the doubters screaming about ball dominance and fit. You have two alphas in Giannis and Brunson, both high-usage killers who need the rock in their hands to be effective. Skeptics are asking the tough question: can these two superstars coexist without stepping on each other's toes? But the tape tells a different story. Brunson has already proven he can play the sidekick role, flashing brilliance off the ball back in his Dallas days, running alongside Luka Doncic. His sniper-like efficiency on catch-and-shoot plays and his ability to attack closeouts suggest he wouldn't just survive, he would thrive in a secondary role. And Giannis? For all his on-ball dominance, he has shown he is willing to cut and move when he is surrounded by elite playmakers who can get him the ball. Under the iron fist of Tom Thibodeau, the system would force these two to mesh, creating a two-headed monster that the league simply isn't ready for. Imagine a rotation so relentless that the defense never gets a moment to breathe staggered minutes, meaning one superstar is always on the floor, hunting, attacking, destroying. When they share the court, it's pure chaos for the opposition, shifting between lethal playstyles that leave defenders guessing and scrambling in panic. You have Jalen Brunson slicing through the lane with surgical pick and rolls, followed immediately by Giannis bulldozing the paint, keeping defenses in a constant state of vertigo, unable to double team without paying a fatal price. This isn't just an improvement, it is a total paradigm shift that would shatter the league's balance of power overnight. The Knicks wouldn't just be contenders. They would morph into the undisputed villains of the East, a juggernaut built to terrorize every other franchise chasing a ring. We are talking about an offensive rating exploding into historic territory, top 1, maybe top 2 all time, while the Greek Freak locks down the paint to turn their defense into an impenetrable fortress. This is the kind of star power that doesn't just win games, it defines eras and breaks the spirits of rival teams before tip-off. Right now, New York is a tough, gritty, top 3 squad, but let's be real, are they terrifying? Add Giannis, and suddenly they are the heavyweights standing toe-to-toe with Boston, looking down on the rest of the league as undeniable championship favorites. A Brunson-Giannis ticket would arguably be the most dangerous duo on the planet, merging elite perimeter creation with unstoppable interior violence in a way we haven't seen since the Kobe and Shaq days. Sure, the skeptics will scream about depth concerns, and yes, the bench would be thin. But does it even matter when you have this much firepower? When the playoffs hit and the lights get bright, the rotation shrinks to 7 guys, and it becomes a war of attrition where superior talent crushes depth every single time. The Knicks would holster 2 legitimate superstars, both capable of dropping 50 on any given night, carrying the offensive burden against the fiercest defenses the league can throw at them. And look at the timeline. It is absolute perfection. Brunson is 28, right in the sweet spot of his prime, playing the best ball of his life. Giannis is 31, a physical marvel with several years of elite MVP caliber dominance left in the tank. The championship window wouldn't just crack open, it would be smashed wide open for at least 3 to 4 seasons, offering multiple shots at raising the Larry O'Brien trophy. But here is the cold, hard reality check that kills the dream. The math is brutal. The salary cap, the second apron, and the lack of assets make a midseason trade nearly impossible to pull off. However, don't lose hope just yet. The offseason changes the game entirely, opening the door if New York is ruthless enough and Milwaukee decides it is time to blow it all up. The summer brings flexibility, a chance to rewrite the script and navigate the financial minefield. We are talking massive contract restructuring, complex sign-in trades, and dragging a third or fourth team into the mix to make the money work. Bottom line, bringing the Greek Freak to Madison Square Garden is the nuclear option, a move that transforms the franchise forever. It elevates them from a nice story to the center of the basketball universe, armed with the offense, defense, and star power to rule the decade. Despite the gutted roster and the depth nightmares that come with a blockbuster deal, you make that trade 10 times out of 10 because banners fly forever. But wait, there is a massive elephant in the room. Giannis isn't just a player, he is Milwaukee. His loyalty runs deeper than almost anyone in modern sports. Remember, he signed that Supermax in 2020, looking the super team era in the eye and saying no, choosing to stay and fight for the city that raised him. He delivered on that promise with a ring in 2021, cementing his status as a living god in Wisconsin and the greatest buck to ever lace them up. That kind of bond, it doesn't just break because of a few bad months, it is forged in iron and history. Every time a microphone is in his face, he shuts down the noise, insisting he would never demand a trade, and you have to believe he means it. He constantly talks about gratitude, about how Milwaukee took a chance on a skinny kid from Greece when nobody else believed. That city is his home. Leaving wouldn't just be a business decision, it would be an emotional divorce, complex and messy, tearing at the heartstrings of a fan base that worships him. Even if every basketball metric screams that he needs to leave to win another ring, does he have the heart to walk away? Meanwhile, the Sharks are circling. Rival GMs are quietly preparing their war chests, running simulations, and whispering in back channels about what it would take. Milwaukee is playing it cool, listening to calls but holding their cards close to the vest, refusing to panic. But unless Giannis walks into that front office and demands out, the Bucks hold all the leverage. The February 5th deadline is looming like a dark cloud. If the deadline passes with silence, the drama doesn't end, it just hibernates until the summer when the entire league will be armed with cap space and fresh desperation. Summer 2026 is where things get truly wild, allowing for intricate multi-team deals that aren't legal right now. It gives the organization time to look in the mirror and decide if they are rebuilding or reloading, and that decision will shake the league. Here is the ticking time bomb. Giannis becomes eligible for another Supermax extension in October 2026. That date is the ultimate pressure point for Milwaukee. The clock is officially ticking louder than ever. If he refuses to sign that paper, panic mode engages. His trade value hits its absolute peak as teams scramble to acquire him, knowing they might be able to keep him long term. If he signs, the dream dies for New York, and he signals to the world that he is going down with the ship. For better or worse, the Bucks front office is on the hot seat. Can they fix this flawed roster fast enough to satisfy a champion's hunger? Expect heads to roll, coaching changes, front office purges, anything to show Giannis they are still serious about winning. For Giannis, this is the ultimate crossroads. Stay loyal and risk fading into mediocrity, or become the villain to chase glory. Staying in Milwaukee protects his legacy as the loyal hero, but at what cost to his competitive soul? He has the history and the deep personal connections, sure. But here is the terrifying reality. He risks burning his absolute prime years rotting on a team that can't contend. Demanding a trade is the nuclear option. It instantly maximizes his shot at a ring, but it comes with a heavy price tag, destroying the legacy of the loyal franchise savior he spent a decade building. Then you have the New York Knicks. And this is where the drama hits a fever pitch. New York is sitting at 28-18 with legitimate championship dreams. So the front office is hesitant to gut their core for a massive question mark. Management is stuck in a high-stakes gamble, balancing the seduction of adding a monster like Giannis against the danger of blowing up a winning machine for a guy who might not even be available. Let's be clear about the cost. The assets needed to pull off a Giannis blockbuster would completely erase the Knicks' identity overnight. We are talking Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, plus a war chest of draft picks. Losing that many key pieces creates massive holes in the lineup that even the brilliance of the Greek Freak might not be able to fix immediately. You are taking years of chemistry and brotherhood built in the trenches and throwing it out the window, forcing a total reset on integration and rhythm. Remember, Tom Thibodeau's entire system is built on defensive grind, discipline, and guys knowing exactly where their teammates are every second. Dropping Giannis into that pressure cooker mid-season, that challenges every single principle, forcing the squad to adapt to new rotations on the fly while the world watches. That learning curve is dangerous. It could cost them games during the brutal playoff push, sabotaging the very title hopes that sparked the trade in the first place. Waiting for the offseason might seem safer, giving them training camp and preseason to figure out the puzzle pieces. But even with that extra time to prepare, the sheer amount of talent you have to sacrifice to get him remains a devastating blow to the roster. The Knicks have to look in the mirror and decide, does the upgrade in star power justify destroying their depth? And they aren't the only ones doing the math. Other contenders are circling like sharks. Miami has the assets and the allure of Heat culture to make a formidable offer, but landing Giannis means torching their young core and mortgaging their entire future. Then there is the Minnesota fantasy. Pairing him with Anthony Edwards is a terrifying thought for the rest of the league, but their lack of assets and the salary cap nightmare make it nearly impossible to pull off. The Bucks saying they are willing to listen, that is just pragmatic business, not a sign they are actively trying to ship him out. Smart front offices always check the market value of their superstars, especially when the future starts looking a little hazy. Listening costs absolutely nothing, and it gives them crucial intel on what they could get if the situation goes south. But do not get it twisted, listening to a phone call is fundamentally different from pulling the trigger on a deal. Milwaukee's plan A remains unchanged. Keep Giannis happy and build a championship contender around him right where he is. The franchise knows his value isn't just points and rebounds. It is marketing, it is the fans, and it is the prestige of the entire organization. Trading him signals a total surrender and a hard reset that ownership is desperate to avoid. For Knicks fans, this Giannis speculation is a double-edged sword. It is a tantalizing dream, but also a brutal reality check. The idea of him running alongside Jalen Brunson screams championship potential, but the hurdles, assets, cap space, and fear make it a massive long shot. Hope is one thing, but you have to temper that with the cold, hard facts. The next few weeks are critical. They will determine if this is just noise or the start of the biggest shakeup in basketball. Until the buzzer sounds, this situation is the perfect example of the NBA's constant war between loyalty and ambition. It is the battle between careful planning and the hunger for glory, between the dream of what might be and the truth of what actually is. That is a wrap for this video. If you want more high-octane breakdowns like this, smash those cards on your screen right now.